Welcome to the Ready Room Podcast. I am Josh.
And I'm Caroline.
And today we're going to start answering some questions on what do you do now that you've decided to start concealed carrying. It's going to be a fun topic. Hope you enjoy. All right. So, maybe you heard the conversation we had not yesterday, but a couple of days ago with Jessica, my sister. We had a great episode on refusing to be a victim, right? And I want to put out some content for people who might have heard that and decided, okay, yeah, I do want to start protecting myself, my family, etc. So we're going to put out some good content for people just starting to get into concealed carrying or self-defense in general. First, let's talk about our sponsor, me. Follow me on Instagram, tbrgunworks, tbrgunworks.com. If you're listening on any of the podcast sites now except for Pandora, screw you, Pandora. No weapons allowed. I don't like you anymore. But everywhere else pods are cast, we are uploading. So give us a review if you're listening to the podcast version. We greatly appreciate it. And reviews go further than anything else, further than downloads, listens, whatever. It's all about, not comments, but reviews. So please leave one if you get a chance. If you're watching on YouTube or during the live stream, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate you. Drop a comment, subscribe.
Yes.
Hit that little notification bell.
Little bell.
The little bell. Little southern bell. We greatly appreciate it, guys. I think that covers everything, right? We're doing some fun stuff on TBR Gunworks, guys. We should be uploading actual YouTube videos, not just podcast episodes, relatively soon. Going to be really exciting. Hopefully be some fun content. I got a couple ideas that we're going to start off with. Easy to record, easy to shoot. But they should be fun little things. So, you decided to start concealed carrying. Now what? Now what, Caroline?
Go buy a gun. Obviously.
It can be really easy to make the decision that, like, I want to start, concealed carrying now, but it might feel a little stressful.
Overwhelming.
Overwhelming. Like,
especially if you don't know anything, like you don't have any prior knowledge.
Yeah. Like, you just don't know where to go from there.
Yeah.
You start to, like, look into it a little bit, and then you just kind of get lost. So, I'm going to give you, like, a guideline. Today's episode is going to be an overarching guideline on where to go, what to do, and how to invest in yourself, right?
Just general advice.
I think the first thing we should start off with is finding a knowledgeable teacher.
For sure.
And for my family, it's relatively easy because, you just got a question, they just come to me. But for a lot of people, they live in areas where maybe firearms aren't super popular or common, or maybe they live really far away from their family and they can't get the information they want. Find someone you can trust who actually spends the time practicing and who also isn't brand new to concealed carrying. I think we all get a little zealous, and some people are brand new to concealed carry, and they get really excited and they dive into all the information, and then they feel like they can teach, but they don't have the trigger time. They don't have the experience yet, and I think that can trick some people. Confidence is fooling, right? There are people who are very confident in their abilities, no matter what the field is, and they really shouldn't be teaching.
Yeah.
You and I know of someone. Once you find that person, make sure you can find time to actually go practice with the person. Develop a plan, go to the range. If you don't have somebody in your circle of influence that can help you out, YouTube is a really good resource. I think there's a couple really, really good instructors on YouTube that I know of. I'm sure there's way more than these couple I'm going to mention, but these are some that I highly recommend versus being just okay.
Yeah, and that's good too, because YouTube can also be extremely overwhelming because it's just so much information.
Yeah, but it can also be deceiving.
Yeah.
There are people on YouTube who are putting out tons of content, act like they know what they're doing, but they're just as lost in the sauce as the rest of the general public, They're not the sauce.
They're not the sauce.
I'm going to point out some video resources later on, but just to start off from the very beginning, I think one of the best instructors online is John Lovell from Warrior Poet Society, who you can find on YouTube. And another really, really fantastic shooter is Lucas from T-Rex Arms. I don't know if he has a ton of really in-depth and instructional videos, but there's a lot of content from T-Rex Arms. It's worth looking into. I didn't have time to check to see if he had you're new to shooting handguns. I didn't check for that. But these are fantastic shooters, guys. And John Lovell is specifically an instructor. Really worth looking into.
His channel's really good.
Yeah. And he's very, he's not just firearms. The whole thing about Warrior Poet Society is to be a warrior, but also intellectual, peaceful, kind, that kind of thing. It's a very, very good channel. But so different states have different laws on carrying firearms. Some allow you to open carry, like certain places in Georgia. Most allow you to conceal carry, and some states or cities don't allow any forms of firearm carrying because they are unconstitutional and authoritarian.
True.
Is the only way to put that.
True.
So make sure you're doing the research, guys. Some states even allow you to just get a concealed carry permit by having a DD-214, which means you were in the military. There are different types of DD-214s, but if you honorably served, some states, not that many as far as I know, allow you to just show the DD-214 and get a concealed carry permit. Really look into your state. We're going to be referencing for the rest of this episode South Carolina. It's what I know, where I'm from. It's applicable to a lot of other states too. A lot of other states are very similar to
that's true.
South Carolina. Excuse me. Like I said, research your state's laws specifically. It wouldn't hurt if you do get a concealed carry permit to research which states you may travel to that also, what do you call it? Accept your state's carry permit.
Most states are they'll accept the licenses that other states accept. So, hey, if your state accepts our license, we'll accept yours.
Yeah, and that's how South Carolina is. Any state that is reciprocal with
with
South Carolina, South Carolina will respect as well. That doesn't apply to every single state, and some states are interesting where
it's a good chunk of them though.
Yeah, some states are really interesting where they want you to have their states, even if you're out of state. Like you can have their permit just when you're in the state. But it gets kind of murky. Just if you're going to travel to a state, just look into it real quick. Research, does my carry permit work in that state? If you're going to be there for like a week or two and you want to carry, just do this to play it safe, guys. If you're going to peacefully non-comply and do your thing, I can't tell you how to live your life. I can just tell you what's legal and illegal.
We're going to say not to do that.
I'm going to tell you should do the legal thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But yes. I'm just saying that I know. Well, no, let's not go too deep. just I recommend following the laws, following each state's laws to the best of your abilities, so you don't go to jail needlessly. Okay?
Or become a felon, and then you just can't have guns anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to be a felon because then your whole thing about I can carry because the Constitution says so. I agree with you 100%. The Constitution does say you're allowed to carry, but when they make you a felon and you're no longer allowed any guns, was it worth it? There's the argument, guys. Some people in your life will tell you to get your carry license before you buy a firearm, and I completely disagree. I think you should be going into the shooting test for your carry permit if your state requires one. Some don't. I think you should be going into that situation prepared and comfortable with the handgun you're taking the test with, but also more experience under your belt so you're safe and you're accurate and you're prepared, right?
It's like taking a driver's test in a car that you're familiar with.
Yeah, you don't go to a driver's test and say, yeah, I'm just going to rent whatever vehicle you guys got. Now, I know you could, guys. I know that, I've been driving since I was 8. I get it. That's not the point. This is for people who are new, okay? So don't be that person who's like, well, I drove since I was 2 years old, so I just went in there and just do what I had to do. It's not for you, bud. But this leads us into our next point, which is the 4 safety rules. Caroline, without looking at the script, can you remember all 4 off the top of your head?
Treat every firearm like it's loaded.
Mm-hmm.
Don't point at anything you're not willing to destroy.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
What's number 4?
I think number 4 is technically either NRA or South Carolina specific. I always forget. The first 3, the fourth one's redundant, basically.
Know your target and what's beyond it.
Know your target and what's beyond it. That guys, that is not. Some of you might be around in certain parts of the country who've never heard of that fourth one, and I don't blame you. I believe it's South Carolina specific requires this fourth rule.
I think so.
It's very redundant. The third rule. Well, I'll go at them in order again. Treat every firearm as if it's loaded. This applies to every firearm that you ever touch.
Even if you just cleared it.
Even if someone hands it to you and they clear it before they hand it to you, treat it as if it's loaded. And when you're treating it as if it's loaded, you will not be putting your finger on the trigger because that's irresponsible. You're treating it as if it's loaded.
Don't look down the barrel.
Don't look down the barrel, people at Cabela's. Mm-hmm. Keep the firearm pointed in a safe direction at all times. If it was a loaded gun, you would be doing this. So the first rule already prepares you for the rest.
The rest of
yeah,
them,
exactly. The fourth one, know your target and what's beyond. Well, if you're pointing it in a safe direction, then this applies, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of redundant.
Just point it at the ground.
But these are safety rules, guys. These are something you should follow at all times. If you're in your house, practicing drawing from the holster, if you're cleaning your firearm, if you're checking out new firearms at a gun store, follow these 4 rules all the time, and you'll never have an accident. Okay? You should never have an accident.
Because I know people who have cleaned it and then went to go do a systems check, and there was one in the chamber.
Yeah, it happens.
Because they ran a magazine through and took it out.
Yep.
And there was one in the chamber, and now they have holes in their wall.
Yep. I'm going to repeat it one last time. Treat every gun as if it's loaded. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot your target. And that means, like, if you go up to the range, guys, and you're practicing, don't just put your finger on the trigger because you're at a range. Until you point your firearm at the target, have your target in your sights, then you're ready to shoot, you can put your finger on the trigger. Otherwise, needless danger. And this actually tricks up a lot of people who are brand new to the firearms. You tell them these 4 simple rules, and they're like, well, that makes sense. It's easy. It's easy until you're at your first range session. You're not used to this stuff. A lot of new things are being thrown at you, and you just forget. Mm-hmm. And it's not your fault. It's new to you, but you have to beat it into your brain and create muscle memory. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot.
Like whenever we take people, I'm just always like pushing their
the
finger.
First thing they do,
the
first thing they do is put their finger on the trigger, and it's like we just told you not 20 minutes ago.
I blame
not
movies.
to do that. Well, you got to blame the guns for being so well designed and comfortable that's where your finger naturally wants to go.
Because I mean, the rest of your hand is curled.
It's not always their fault. It's your fault if you've been shooting guns for more than a year or a week. Just get these safety rules will keep you and people around you safe, right? And it's a part of the life. We want everyone in the firearms community to be as safe as humanly possible because it's only good. Mm-hmm. It's good. And you don't want to be one of those statistics of someone cleaning their firearm and something happens to them because you didn't follow these rules.
Shooting yourself in the leg when you're trying to take your gun out of your holster. So
you made the decision to start carrying. You have found a good instructor or a good teacher or a good resource to learn from on YouTube or your circle of friends or your family, whatever it may be, or even the local range where they volunteer to teach you because you're new to it, which happens, guys. Do not be afraid to ask people at the range, and I mean like range safety officers and stuff like that.
Most ranges, they
will teach you.
Yeah.
All right, don't be afraid to do that. So you've done all this. Now we think about finding your carry firearm, right? What firearm is going to work for you? There have never, ever been as many options for carry firearms as today. And then tomorrow and the next day, it'll continue to grow and grow and grow. Always will. Availability and price will definitely vary as of right now in early 2021, the end of February, because the firearm market has reacted to the election and the pandemic in
crazy,
an explosive way, let's say.
Yeah.
But on paper, the options are way higher than ever. It's just the availability is a little tighter, guys. And if we ever return to a normal firearm market, it'll be so much better, and the ammo will be so much more affordable. I don't know if we'll ever get back to normal with the firearm market specifically, but I really hope we do, because I'm sick and tired of paying outrageous amounts of money for ammo.
Yeah.
Everyone has their favorite carry gun, and most of those firearms are good or viable, but don't take someone else's preference as gospel. Caroline, you have small hands.
I do have small hands.
She has small baby hands. Okay. What firearm do you carry?
Smith & Wesson M&P Shield Performance Center.
Yes. So It took us a long time.
Oh, wow. It took like a year
to find her a handgun that actually worked for her hands.
Yeah.
Because they're small. Now, we could have gone even smaller than we went.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have gone any smaller.
Exactly. And we're going to get into why I don't recommend going even smaller and smaller and smaller.
No, I mean, like, I can shoot full-size pistols.
Yes.
No problem. But the issue comes to me having to move my hand in an emergency situation and having to reset everything just to, I don't know, change the magazine out.
Yep.
You know, I'm having to reset my whole right hand.
Yep.
Because I can't reach the release.
And that's why I'm going to tell everyone right now, go get your hands on as many firearms as possible. And I do not mean buy them. I literally mean to go put your hands on as many guns as you can.
Just hold them.
Hold them. Everyone's hands are different sizes. Mine are big. Or mine are actually probably pretty average for my height male.
Probably.
But they're a lot larger than Caroline's. Some people's hands are smaller. Some are wider but shorter. Some are really long and skinny. No one's hands are the same. Mm-hmm. So you have to find what grip or handgun frame will suit you best. You want to figure out what weight works for you. There's all different kinds of things to take into account. One of the most important is, can you operate all of the controls on the firearm comfortably without repositioning your grip? That's a really important one I think people overlook. Some guys will look for the biggest handgun they can find to carry, and I'm telling you right now, on a full-size 1911, I have to reposition my hand to operate the slide. Mm-hmm. Slide release. It is what it is. It's pretty far up there. Now,
I just use my left hand.
If I leave both my left hand on there while I'm empty, I can use my left thumb. Put the magazine in, get my grip again, use my left thumb. That's possible. That works. But it's still one of those things where you have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
So that was the whole point of this. Caroline has small hands.
I do.
And there were a lot of small guns that still required her to reposition her hand to manipulate the controls.
Yeah.
One of them that we looked at was, I believe, a Glock 43.
I think so.
I believe. And even then, she had to reposition her thumb to drop the slide. Mm-hmm. So
I mean, still with the M&P, like, I have to move up a little bit, but it's not enough.
It's not a full reposition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was when we found the Shield. I really wasn't a big fan of the Shield's triggers. The first generation M&P pistols guys were just awful triggers.
The Performance Center is good though.
But we found the Performance Center edition, which, if you don't know what it is, it just comes with upgraded sights, a much better trigger, and a ported slide and barrel. This is a first gen. But she could reach all the controls. She can manipulate the handgun completely. And then we took her to the range, and she got some trigger time on that handgun, and she was putting holes directly center mass, 7 to 10 yards, which is the average engagement distance, and she did really, really well. Mm-hmm. So I was really happy that we found her a really, really good carry gun.
And it's not super expensive.
No, we found it for like $450.
Yeah, good price.
And that was only $50 more than the stock version, the regular version. The only downside of the first gen Smith & Wesson M&P Shield was the lack of grip texture on the frame.
Yeah.
So we used grip tape.
Talon Grips.
Talon Grips makes $15 grip tape. It's like skateboard deck texture. It's very aggressive. Plants in your hands. It's great. I carry a CZ P10C. It's a lot of letters and C's. CZ is a brand. The P10 series is a line of handguns. There's an F for full size, C for compact, and then S for subcompact. The C is a compact. It's Glock 19 sized. I love it because the grip texture is very aggressive, and it plants itself in your hand very well. It has a slightly more vertical grip angle than a Glock 19. It fits in Glock 19 holsters, the majority of them. Has the hands down the best trigger for a striker fired handgun out of the box. I like it. And it was really like $550. I love it. Okay. So that's what I like. That's what fits my hand well. It's what I'm used to using.
I like shooting it too, though.
Yeah, it's true. But this is for carry guns, guys.
Yeah.
So I don't like when people tell, let's just say women, because I'm hoping some women will hear this and from the last episode come to this as a resource.
If it's a piggyback from Wednesday.
Hoping they can use this as a resource. If a guy tells you need to go find the smallest handgun possible, do not listen to him.
No, you need to find one that fits your hand. The
smaller it gets and the less weight it has, the more recoil or the snappier it is, the less recoil it absorbs, right?
That's why the ported barrel and the slide is
very
really
nice
good because it's got that short barrel and it helps push.
I really like the ported barrel on the Smith & Wesson Shield Performance Center Edition. You'll find really, really, really small 380 handguns, which are way snappier than a duty size 9mm. Another downside to really, really small handguns is the reduced ammunition capacity. Yeah. Where you're holding like 6 rounds. But at least it's concealable. Yeah, but you've got 6 rounds. At that point, just carry a 1911. You get one extra round.
Holds 8, one in the chamber.
Yes. And you can carry an extra mag. Yeah. So like, I'd rather her have 8 than 6. We could have found her a smaller gun that held 6. I like her having at least 2 more. There's a saying, and I think the saying rings true: capacity is king, right? So you're gonna find a sweet spot, a carry handgun that gives you the highest ammo capacity while still being comfortable and concealable. It's a 3-point or 3-pointed triangle. You're looking for the mixture of all 3 that works the best for you. Okay, if you're sitting here telling me you can't carry anything because the clothing you wear, that is you saying I am choosing clothing and how I look over carrying a handgun. That's just, it is what it is. Okay, that's boiled down. If you want to carry anything, you're going to have to be able to dress slightly to carry. Okay?
And with the amount of, like, women's carry products now.
Yes.
Like, it's phenomenal.
Man, okay, ladies, if there are any ladies listening to this, look up Dean Adams. We are not sponsored. I would love to be sponsored by Dean Adams because I really do believe in their product. Dean Adams is the first female carry clothing line that I believe in. It's not made just to sell stuff. It's really good.
No, it's good quality. It's meant to last. Yes. It's comfortable. It's breathable.
Very, very good stuff. Holsters, guys, anyone who's looking for a new holster, I currently use Alien Gear.
I also have an Alien Gear one.
You do too. The only downside to Alien Gear on their Cloak and Tuck series of in the waistband holsters is you're going to have to blue Loctite their retention screws, but that's not a big deal. Find the level of retention that you would like for your handgun, and then blue Loctite the retention screws, and they won't back out. But if you don't Loctite them, they will back out over time. Yes. The way they do retention is a spacer that's constantly applying pressure to that screw. So unless you Loctite them, it's going to walk out eventually.
And it's a rubber one too.
Yes.
So it's not just there, like it's actively pushing against it.
If you really like appendix carry, Tier 1 concealment is really worth looking into. And T-Rex Arms, that Lucas guy. His company does a lot of appendix carry as well. That's like the sidecar and something else. There's a lot of options, guys. Look into you're going to have to try a couple things.
Oh, Dean Adams has a couple men's waistband holsters.
That's true too.
Like literally like goes around your waist.
That'll be bigger, or that'll be good for the larger guys who have a little trouble carrying.
Oh, she's got them for both now. Oh, okay. Like she's got one for guys that are a little bit bigger,
plus size,
and and guys of average.
Well, I know
they're just shaped differently.
A lot of times, plus size guys, I say plus size, bigger guys have trouble carrying anywhere from 3 to 9 o'clock, and like appendix carry at 12 o'clock. Yeah, and so they'll just carry 6 o'clock, and I really don't like that. If you fall down, that thing can jam you into that gun can jam into your spine and cause some serious damage. That's a tough one. I still believe even larger size guys should be carrying probably 3 o'clock because their bellies are hanging forward. If your belly, and this is not to hurt anyone's feelings, if your belly's hanging forward, so you can't appendix carry, which I understand, I would carry at 3 or 4 o'clock. Because it's going to clear your belly.
4 o'clock's probably going to be better. It's going to be less of a
and it's not going to risk your spine.
No.
That's the dangerous part. But guys, trying out new holsters is going to take time. You need to try a couple things out. Find what's comfortable. I mean, you want to be comfortable, but don't think that the minor inconvenience and the fact that you can tell your gun is there, do not take that as this is uncomfortable. I can't do this. Give it time. You'll get used to certain things. I honestly never feel my handgun anymore. Until I sit down and it repositions. That mean when I'm walking around, I don't really realize I'm carrying.
See, I didn't feel mine until we put those Talon grips on there.
Yeah. Well, I wear undershirts, so.
Yeah, I mean I do too, but for a lot of the times I had it over.
Oh yeah.
Like I didn't have it tucked into my shirt or into my pants. But
Yep.
I just had to make a conscious decision when I was getting dressed to tuck my undershirt in.
Yeah. So back to the handguns, you're looking for the sweet spot of capacity, comfortability, and concealability. So here are some good brands to look into: CZ, Glock, Smith & Wesson's M&P line. The 2.0s now have better triggers and much better grip texture. 6 Hour, FN, and plenty of others. But those are some top of the line, or not top of the line, but name brands. HK is great, thank you. They are more expensive, but they are fantastic
really
handguns. The VP9s and the P30s.
VP9.
So nice. But you can get reliable, tough, and accurate carry handguns for between $450 and $700. I mean, of course, higher than $700, but I mean, you can reliably find good carry guns in between that little bracket, depending on the firearm, depending on if it's used, new, whatever. But you don't need to break the bank hey, to protect yourself. You can protect yourself affordably. Mm-hmm. So now you have your firearm. You bought the gun. Hopefully you were able to afford some ammo with that gun. Mm-hmm. What should you do now, Caroline?
Shoot it. Yeah, practice.
Learn the fundamentals.
Yeah.
You gotta learn the fundamentals. So you own the firearm. You need to build up some skills to use that firearm, which is a tool, right? Musicians don't just buy a instrument and just naturally good at playing the instrument. They have to practice.
And when they do, I get upset.
Yeah, the prodigies. So you have to learn. You have to take the time. And unfortunately, with firearms, a lot of the practice requires shooting, but there are plenty of things you can do without firing live ammunition to save yourself some money and time.
And it is a very perishable skill.
Yes.
So if you don't practice regularly.
This is something, guys, that you cannot just do it once a year and hope you're good. You are not going to make any progress. No, it's not riding a bike. It's very perishable skill. But you got to make sure you're prepared to actually use the tool that you're betting your life on in a life or death situation, right? Just having it isn't going to save your life. You need to know how to use it.
It may.
You hope it may. You hope one day you have to pull it. If you have to pull it, you don't have to shoot.
Yeah.
Yes. However, most people could not pull the handgun out of their holster if the situation called for it under stress and adrenaline.
Yeah.
They would fumble.
Shaky.
Because they're not used to doing it. They're going to fiddle with their clothing and try to get it out of the holster. It's a problem of complacency, just like we talked about.
That's the biggest downside for concealed carrying, but I personally wouldn't open carry.
Yeah.
Like, even if, like, South Carolina allowed it, I wouldn't. Cause
I would in certain areas.
That's an advantage that I have.
Yes.
As a small person.
As a small little girl.
Exactly. For them not to say, oh, she's got a weapon. If we take that weapon or we make it to where she can't get it, then it'll be fine. Like, I'm not strong. Like,
no.
I need every advantage I can get.
And you're preggers, so that's just even worse.
Yeah.
It comes down to needing to build muscle memory, which requires training, time, and effort. And this doesn't just mean training, going to the range and putting a couple holes in some paper. Like, you need to have a plan, and you need to be practicing specific skills and trying at something, not just going to the range and having fun. Although I love having fun at the range, don't get me wrong. That's not exactly improving your shooting skills.
Yeah.
Just going to the range and shooting and then leaving. So you want to have a plan, and you need to work on the 4 fundamentals of marksmanship, which we're going to talk about now. Mm-hmm. The first one is sight picture. Having the same sight alignment every single time you take a shot. If your alignment of your sights isn't consistent, your hits won't be either. This is less important for a lot of scopes. This is really important for iron sights, which most people carrying a handgun are going to be using, iron sights. It is very dependent on your iron sights because there are tons of different types on the market now. And I can't just show you on the screen right now with the podcast set up. But learn how to align your sights properly. This will require you talking to your instructors or your teacher, whoever's helping you out. And you want to make sure every time you line those sights up to take a shot, it looks the exact same as it did before. And the next time, and the next time, right? If it's a slight 1 degree variation, you're not going to hit the same spot. It's just a matter of fact. The next one is trigger control. This one, I think, is what people have the biggest issue with.
Yeah.
I think this is the hardest thing for people to learn. It's don't jerk your trigger. Pull it smoothly and consistently. Don't pull it with the first joint of your trigger finger. Don't pull it with the very tip of your trigger finger. This requires some time, guys. The trigger control will take you time to learn, and you're going to need to learn your trigger.
Yeah. I stuck with when we took Jessica shooting the first time, and you were helping Kyle. I was like, that was the biggest thing with her, was
it's tough.
Where she was, like where her finger was on the trigger.
Yeah.
And her breathing, because we were inside and
yeah.
she was nervous.
But see, and then that's one thing, is it's not only where you put your finger, it's how you pull that trigger with that finger. And a lot of people, they'll pull, and then they'll jerk. They'll pull really hard in the last to break that wall. They'll pull really hard. Most triggers, guys, when you pull it, there's some creep. There's a little bit of, there's resistance that you're pulling directly rearward. And then a lot of firearms, most of them, understand that I can't speak for all triggers, because most triggers are different in one way or the other. But what you're going to find is a noticeable wall that you can feel. It's like you had smooth or somewhat smooth resistance, and then boom, there's just like a little wall. And that's where your trigger is about to break. And I don't mean break as in malfunction or go wrong, but it's going to break rearward, and the gun's going to go off. You want to learn to let the trigger surprise you a little bit. Don't be prepared.
I feel like that's always a bad way to put it, but like that's really
it's true, though.
Yeah, but that's like the only way that
it sounds like
makes sense
irresponsible.
Like it shouldn't be scaring you.
No, it shouldn't scare you, but you shouldn't be preparing your entire body for this gun to go off.
Yeah, because then you're going to tense up.
Because you're going to drive the gun downward, which most people have an issue with, is right before they break the trigger, they're driving the gun down.
Breaking that is so hard.
Because your body's preparing for the recoil, and it's trying to resist that.
And a lot of times you don't realize that you're doing it.
Oh, it's almost impossible to tell that you're doing it unless you pull the trigger and the gun goes click instead of going bang, and you lurch forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
because you did that to me because there was a while, like we didn't go shooting for a while, and we went, and I was like, why am I not hitting this target? And you loaded my magazine and didn't tell me how many was in there.
Yep.
And I about fell forward. I was like, that's the problem.
But it happens so quick, you don't even notice you're doing it because it happens just when you fire the gun.
Yeah.
And you like, I can't tell why.
Because you know when it's going to happen. Yeah. So you're.
Especially when you learn your trigger and you actually have so much time on your trigger, you know exactly when it's going to break. That's actually detrimental a little bit.
It's harder to tell when you're doing that.
Yeah. This is one way you avoid that is to have someone load your magazine with an unknown amount of bullets and an unknown amount of dummy rounds. So it'll still load it and it won't lock open, but it won't go bang. And they're going to notice themselves drive the gun forward. If someone's hitting very, very low consistently, that's most likely what they're doing. But trigger control takes time. It just takes time. Learn your trigger, but also learn to let it surprise you a little bit. And I don't mean you don't know when it's going to happen. It's just that you're not tensing every muscle in your body and lurching forward and preparing for this gun to go off.
Because your brain wants to brace for it.
Yes.
Because that's just natural.
Now, we're not saying be limp.
Yeah, no.
Because we're going to get the next one is body position. But guys, this is one of those things where it's kind of hard to tell you over a podcast. That's why I recommend John Lovell and Lucas. You can look at their form and the way they run their guns. They're very, very good, and they're very consistent. And consistency is key. So body positioning also takes time to learn, and it's different person to person.
Yeah,
right.
Like you want to be firm, but
you
don't want to be tense.
Like I know a lot of competition shooters that shoot completely different than I do.
Yeah.
But we both hit the target. You know, it's not like there's a 100% wrong and 100% right answer. There are do's and don'ts, but most of the time you'll see a very firm and deliberate stance that starts with a shoulder width stance, strong leg rearward a little bit, leaned forward a little bit as well. You don't want to lean back. If you lean back, okay, let's put it this way. Any position that you're standing in and someone could just come tip you over real quick with the push of a finger, that's not good, right? So if you're sitting there with a lot of, and unfortunately females are really bad about this when they're going shooting for their first time. They lean back. Yeah. They lean back every time. They especially if it's a rifle, man, they're leaning back hard.
Real bad. And I always do that too. If we take somebody that hasn't, and it's, a female friend of mine or, a family member, I'm always like, I've got their hip and I'm pushing their shoulders forward.
They just keep leaning back every shot. And it's like, it's almost this uneasiness and this stress and being scared a little bit. You're getting further away from the gun, but lean forward, take control of the firearm.
Want knees bent and lean forward at the hips.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Not arching your back. You're leaning forward at the hips a little bit. You're bracing. You're giving yourself a little bit of a body position that would be tougher to knock over.
Yeah.
Right? If someone would come up and just shove you at your shoulders, you want a stance that would naturally be easier to resist getting knocked over. This is a natural body position that helps you deal with the recoil impulses a little better without tensing up every muscle in your body and jerking and all this fun stuff. It's more of just using your body mechanics to deal with the recoil. And that's the same thing with your arms. You don't want your arms locked out. If your arms are locked out and you pull the trigger and the gun goes bang, well, your whole arm goes up, right? There's no flexing. It's just the arm goes up because it's locked out. But you don't want it so limp and bent at 90 degrees. Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
You want a good firm grip and to project and push the firearm outward. But that one's really hard to describe, man.
Yeah.
Arm is really hard to describe on a podcast. You have a slight bend.
Yeah, what I do, I go just below having my elbows locked out.
Yeah, for most people, a slight bend is just enough to work. Once again, I really recommend body position, going and watching these professional shooters.
Yeah,
okay,
for sure. And
learn why they're doing the things they're doing. Like, here's a simple, it sounds kind of weird, but one of the things I do that I learned from much better instructors and much better people than I, right? Or much better shooters than I. Mm-hmm. One thing they'll do is their weak arm, their for me, it would be my left. For most, your non-dominant arm, it's supporting, I can't do it with the mic in front of me, it's supporting the handgun on the left side, and they rotate their elbow out a little bit. Mm-hmm. As opposed to down, it's rotated out.
That actually helps a lot.
It cams. It's a camming motion that actually forces the palm of your hand underneath your thumb, that pad, to push in and creates more of a vice grip without you actually using your muscles to grip harder.
Yeah.
It's a biomechanical movement that applies more pressure without you having to exert more force. Mm-hmm. It's a really, really nice tip I learned, and it helps control recoil.
It helps a lot.
It helps a substantial amount.
Like the first time you mentioned it to me, I was like, oh, this is
much better.
Much better. Like, for such a small thing.
Yeah. The last of the 4 fundamentals of marksmanship is breathing control. Now, guys, the breathing part does apply a lot more heavily to shooting rifles, like precision, but it still applies to handguns. You want to not breathe sporadically, but just make sure you're breathing. Mm-hmm. Because some people, they're trying not to breathe sporadically, so they just hold their breath.
Yeah.
And that's not good either. You want to breathe calmly and controlled, and you're shooting, you're shooting. Like,
that was another thing with Jessica too. Like, after she got bit.
Throwing her under the bus today.
No, she mentioned it, and I'm just using it as an example.
Yeah, the first time we went,
she went outside and sat down for a little while and came back in, and she was still nervous.
Yeah.
And she was breathing really heavy, and I just told her, I was like, just breathe. It's okay.
Yeah, you got to control that. So the first time my sister went to the range with us, very first time, guys, she's come a long way since then.
And it was an indoor range, too.
Like, it was loud. It was stressful for her. And then the slide cut her hand open. So she kind of had like a little bit of a panic attack.
Yeah,
right?
She went outside, got some air.
But she came back like a trooper and wanted to get back at it. I was very proud of her. But your breathing, you don't want it to control your body. You want to control your breathing, because if you don't control your breathing and you're breathing sporadically and not really reliably, you're going to move your entire body, which changes your body position, changes your sight alignment, changes your trigger control. Mm-hmm. The breathing can affect everything else if you don't get a grip on it. And make sure you're controlled. Even if you're tired, guys, learn to shoot a little stressed. And we're going to get into that in a little bit, but you can your breathing can really throw off every other aspect of shooting accurately. So make sure every time you go to the range, you are working towards improving something specific about your shooting abilities. Have a plan. Don't just go out and blow $100 worth of ammo at the range without actually improving something.
Yeah. That's just a waste of money at that point.
Yeah, that's like going to your band practice and just listening to songs the entire time. Yeah. You never actually practiced. You never improved. If you're practicing and working towards your goals, you're going to see improvements over time, just like with anything else, just like with music, whatever you're drawing, whatever your hobby is, right? You're going to see improvements over time. You can't expect it on your second range day. Like, oh, I'm not shooting any better than last time. Well, are you actually
and
practicing
you might be,
in a way
it's just
that
not
improves?
as noticeable. Yeah. I mean, like, if you go on a regular basis, you take a picture of the target after you get finished the first time, and then take a picture of it, a month or two later, and compare. Yeah.
Now, this sounds like a lot to take in, especially when you're like, look, I just want to carry a gun for protection. Why do I need to learn all this? Well, if you're going to carry a firearm that you might have to use to defend your life, you are responsible for where the bullets go. Mm-hmm. You're responsible for what you hit. If it's your threat, that's good. If it's someone behind your threat who is innocent, that's very bad and you're going to jail. You are responsible for what you do with your firearm. So, if you've gotten your firearm, you've prioritized safety, and you're competent enough to shoot at a public range accurately and safely, then I think that's when you should actually take the step to go get your carry permit, guys. Mm-hmm. A lot of people jump the gun with their carry permit, haven't even shot their gun yet.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, you should not be carrying right now. Like, I believe in your right to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
But man, you are more of a danger than an asset.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're doing with that gun. We want to make sure that everyone in the firearm community is safe and effective and an asset rather than a burden. We talked about that in the Refuse to be a Victim podcast episode. Guys, by the way, if you haven't listened to that episode, you need to listen to that episode. If you are still not 100% into firearms, dang, girl.
I know, I keep doing it.
Just slapping the mic.
I'm sorry.
If you're not, 100% sure on why you should carry or whatever, or if you're interested in carrying, go listen to that first, then come back to this one. I should have said that earlier. But yeah, so you want to think that the firearm is an extension of your body and not a separate item that you have to try and manipulate. The more practice you get, the more that'll become a reality, where this firearm is just an extension of myself. It can do nothing without me. Mm-hmm. Right? That gun can't do a single thing without a person using it. So don't think of it as a separate entity. It's part of your body. It is an extension of yourself. So the last thing we've got for you guys is, now you're experienced enough and you have built a solid foundation from which to build on. You've got your carry permit. This is good. You are a safe person. You make sure you prioritize the rules of safety before you go out and do your thing. This is good. Now you should actually work on building those foundational skills up and making sure that you are able to use your firearm if a life or death situation arises. Because here's the difference between range time, where you're practicing, and an actual stressful situation. Stress and adrenaline. Mm-hmm. Guys, if you're not someone who knows this, please hear this in your ears, to your brain. Adrenaline changes how your body works. Your fine motor skills go out the window when adrenaline hits your system. It's life or death. Your body is trying to survive, but it doesn't care if you can write a very pretty cursive essay. Mm-hmm. It wants to survive. And that same thing applies to the mechanical motions of pulling your firearm out of its holster, its place of concealment, and then using it accurately and effectively. So how can you try to help yourself utilize that tool in a stressful situation? Well, you can add stress to your training regime, right? You add stress. Okay, how do you do that? Well, the military does it by yelling in your face the whole time, constantly, nonstop, adding stress to your life all the time, making you shoot your firearms like that, and you tend to get a little used to it. You're never going to be 100% used to it, guys, or else adrenaline junkies would never ever feel any adrenaline, right? Yeah. You're never going to get 100% used to it, but you can start to tell yourself and show yourself how your body's going to react in a situation so you're more prepared, right? So one thing you can do is using a shot timer. You can start having an actual timer to train and record how fast you can do certain things. Now, remember, when you are doing this type of training, guys, where you're adding stress, you still need to prioritize safety. Safety is first, not speed. Okay? This is how people shoot themselves in the leg. Trying to add speed and timing without being safe.
I mean, start off slow until you naturally kind of speed up a little bit.
Yes, you don't need to be rushing, guys. You want to. The reason you're adding the timer is so that you can actually record and show the improvement over time in training. Don't worry about trying to beat the time. Start trying to worry about getting faster by getting better and more efficient and more comfortable with your firearm and more comfortable with the motions of, let's say, pulling your shirt up slightly, grabbing your firearm, pulling it out of the holster, pointing it forward, firing a shot on target, right?
And you can practice holster drawing just at home in front of the mirror.
That's one of the things you guys can do if you don't have the money to go train at the range, which I don't blame you. We're poor too. You can unload your firearm, make sure it's unloaded, double check, digitally and optically. Triple check. And then in front of a mirror, calmly, over time,
Just slowly.
Draw your firearm out of the holster, point. Once you got a good sight alignment, put it back. Rinse and repeat. This is something that you're building that muscle memory up. It's not stressful, but you're building the muscle memory of removing it from its place of concealment and getting it on target. That's half the battle, right? The timer just adds stress, guys. If you've ever been to a competition, you know that the timer makes you forget everything you've ever learned about how to do things smoothly.
That's in any situation.
Yeah, of course.
Anything there's a timer, you're like,
Your brain turns off.
Yeah, for sure.
Caroline can be putting on her socks, and I can start counting from 5 to 0, 5,
and
4,
I forget
3,
how to
and she
put on
freaks
socks.
out. The time restrictions change things, right? So it's a way to add stress. It's not life or death stress, but it's extra stress to help you build up a little bit of a resistance to it.
There was that video, the guy just going asking random people questions on the street. Mm-hmm. And he ran up to a girl.
Name a woman.
Yeah, he said, for $1, name a woman.
And they couldn't think of
and
one
she
woman.
Couldn't.
She was a woman.
This was a woman, and she could not think of a single woman.
Because timing.
And she got confused and ran away.
Yeah, because
she could have said her mother.
The rush of
things. She could have said herself.
The rush of things changes how your brain works, right? So this is why you see certain people in like CCTV footage, security footage, whatever. You'll see people who get assaulted and they're reaching for their gun, but they can't get it because it's caught on something, or it's caught on their clothing, or they're fumbling to get to it. It's just one of those things where the adrenaline changes the situation.
That's why I like to carry striker fire.
Yeah.
Personally, just because.
Less to catch on, like the hammer. Yeah. I understand. So this is just, you practice these things. I know it confused me for a second. I was like, why?
What do you mean what?
I just didn't know what reason you were using.
Yeah, no. So it's just one less thing to get caught on something.
So you're trying to train your body and your muscle memory to be able to do this even under stress, to where it's second. It's like what do they call it?
Second nature.
Second nature. There you go. It's second nature where you just do it. Right, out of response.
I'm not even a co-host. I just help you with words.
You do. You're just kind of like a spell checker here.
Yeah.
Spell check. So make sure you add stress to your drills. Make sure you're prioritizing safety first over speed. But you can do this, guys. You can do different drills. Like one of the great drills you can do right now if you're low on ammo is you have a target in front of you. You have a shot timer. Draw one shot into the target. Reload one shot. Right? That's 2 rounds, but you've worked on 3 different skills: drawing from the holster, shooting on target, and then reloading.
Make sure the range that you're at allows you to draw from the holster.
Most public ranges do not. If you have a private range, that's great. If you don't, guys, draw from the holster at home. Dry fire, that kind of thing.
What you can do, because you showed me a video on it, start from here.
Yeah.
And go out.
That is one thing I'll do at a range if they don't let you draw from the holster.
Because, that's where you're going.
Yeah, you come up
first, and then you come out.
So people who on podcasts couldn't see what you were doing.
Yeah, that's true.
What we're saying is, one of my things is when you pull out from the holster, a lot of times you come up to your chest first, and then you push the gun out. Well, one thing you can do at a public shooting range that doesn't allow you to draw from the holster is come to the halfway point where you're at your chest, then push out. Do that. That's half the motion. It's not the pulling from the holster part, but it's part of the muscle memory, guys. If you can't draw from a holster at the range, do it at home. You can draw from the holster, empty, safe, right? Make sure you're triple checking your firearm, making sure it's unloaded. Draw from the holster, point. And you can dry fire. You can work on dry firing too, guys. If it's not a rim fire gun, dry firing is now safe. I don't care what anyone says. If it's a modern handgun...
I was about to say, how would somebody know if...
If it's a modern handgun and it's not a .22, you're safe to dry fire it.
Because I do.
Okay. I do it all the time.
When I practice
all the time.
Holster,
yes.
I dry fire.
Dry firing is great practice, and it also helps you realize, and girl, if you don't stop making noise on the table and all this stuff, worst co-host ever.
Look, I'm just a spell checker here. I just
okay, can you be a silent spell checker? That'd be great at this point. I might just do this podcast by myself. Can't stop banging on stuff.
You can just go take a nap. It's okay.
Gosh. Where do you find a good co-host nowadays?
Not in your own house.
I'm going to put up an ad on Craigslist.
Go for it.
It's awful. But yeah, dry firing is really good because it can help show you and teach you how your trigger feels and works. It's a good little feeling. If you want to add even more stress because you have your own public or private range that you can go to whenever you want and do whatever you want at, look up Instructor Zero or Operator Zero. I think it's Instructor Zero. It's Instructor Zero. This guy does crazy training regimes. He dunked his hands in ice water and then tried to operate.
Right.
I mean, this guy is really, really...
he held his hands in ice water for a while.
Oh yeah, they were completely purple when he pulled them out, and then he tried to use his gun.
He's numb.
And that's, he's applying all these different possible scenarios to, training, and it's pretty. I'll give him credit. So I'm not saying you should go that far, but if you're looking for some other ideas, check out his channel. You might like what he does. There's a lot of different content on his. I don't know if he's only on Facebook or if he's on YouTube too. I don't remember. But Instructor Zero does crazy stressful training regimes, and I'm willing to bet that dude would be ready when the adrenaline hit.
Oh, for sure.
So
Because he
guys,
does like exercises too before he does
he
it,
does
right?
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
There's no limit to what I don't know what all he does. I just know he does a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
So hopefully this basic outline, that was four. I know it was four different things. We had your safety rules. We had what to do, to find a teacher. We talked about finding your own firearm. We talked about how to train, learning the 4 fundamentals, and then how to build your skills off of the solid foundation. Hopefully, these outlines will help you become a safe, knowledgeable, and prepared firearm owner. We really want every single person in the firearm community to be safe, educated, and prepared, because it is a net positive to not only your community, but the firearm community, your family, and then everyone in your circle. Mm-hmm. You being a safe and educated firearm owner is a net positive to everyone. So that's all I've got for you. Make sure you check us out on social media. TBR Gunworks on Facebook, Instagram, tbrgunworks.com. Leave a review if you're listening to the podcast. Anywhere pods are cast except for Pandora, because they're anti-gun.
Pandora doesn't like us.
Doesn't like us. If you're on YouTube, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Should be some actual YouTube videos coming out soon. Very excited for that. Just waiting on a couple things to get shipped in, really. And that's pretty much it, guys. Remember, stay safe, stay smart. Every single gun law is an infringement. Take care.